I suck at Jiu-Jitsu? How do I suck less at Jiu-Jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to the newest episode of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. So today, we're going to talk about learning Jiu-Jitsu faster than ever. And I think that the only way to really do this is to do this for the individual. And what I mean by that is people do not all learn Jiu-Jitsu the exact same way. And that is what we're going to look at, is kind of what ways there are to learn Jiu-Jitsu, and then how do you kind of hack that idea to take your Jiu-Jitsu training to the next level. And I think hopefully we're going to give a lot of specific answers to people on today's episode. And so looking at the question of like, how do you get good really fast? I think one of the simplest ways, and this is one of the best ways that I've ever analyzed that question, and it was through a different question. And the question was this, is why do some people get better faster than others? And I would notice it among my students. I have, had, of course, a lot of people over 9 years of being a jiu-jitsu coach, come through the doors at my gym. We have, between both gyms, quite a few, almost 300 students, I think. And that is just a lot of people to experiment on getting good at jiu-jitsu. And over that time, there were a pretty good group of people that like just really seemed to thrive, especially early on, in the environment that I provided and with the teaching style that I provided. And there were other people that got good, but they didn't seem to get good near as fast. And then there were people that really struggled to get good. And of course, you could define most of it as how dedicated were people, how focused were they. But there were people that I was working with, and I was really trying hard to work with, and I was trying to help them focus and trying to help them with the things that I thought were important. And they really weren't getting good as fast. And then some other interesting things is a lot of times those guys almost gravitated more towards my dad's teaching and how my dad taught jiu-jitsu. And they weren't always older guys. It wasn't always Steve teaches older jiu-jitsu and that would help me. Sometimes it was like, good athletic jiu-jitsu guys that just liked the way that he taught jiu-jitsu and the way that he explained it and the way that he made you and taught you to learn it. And so I really could start to see that there was this really big difference in learning style, right? And for me, I really didn't run into a ton of people that like would learn the same way that I did. But then when I did run into somebody like that, for example, somebody I've had on the podcast a million times, is Chris Paines. And he and I, anytime we talk, there is always so much idea development because we both see jiu-jitsu from a very similar perspective, right? And that being said, there was also times that I got to train with a guy who's YouTube famous now, John Thomas. And he and I, when I was a blue belt, he taught me a ton of different stuff. We trained together a couple hours a day for like probably 6 months. And he learned and taught jiu-jitsu completely differently than I ever did, right? I learned a lot through live rolling. He learned through analyzing. He learned through saying, okay, I've been stuck in De La Hiva with this grip and this position right here. Let's recreate it and let's talk through it. And how does this feel? How does this feel? Maybe I should move this way. And then eventually we would find really cool answers. And what's cool for me is like, there are still John Thomas videos that I watch today that he'll show a detail and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that detail came from him drilling this position on me at 17 years old for 4 hours straight and us just problem solving it to death until there was something. And honestly, at first, I didn't learn it all in that method. it was very, very hard for me to learn from him. And naturally, I started to kind of learn that way. And it was really cool that I started to learn in this different perspective. And it even came in handy after he left years later at purple and brown belt, when I was struggling and the level was getting so high that the answers to the questions that I was struggling with weren't free on YouTube. And, me and Kyle were having to analyze them. And it was, I kind of had learned this skill of how to analyze jiu-jitsu technique, and I was able to get better that way. But again, it was a completely different way of getting better at jiu-jitsu. And so the answer to why do you and Dave that you train with, you both train 3 nights a week, why is Dave getting so much better than you? Well, the answer is simple. Dave is on steroids, okay? Dave is geared up. Dave is purple every time you guys start drilling the first move. Of course, he's on the juice, dude. That's why he's getting better than you. And once you make that excuse, technically none of Dave's wins count anymore, right? And so even if he's not, even if he could pass the drug test, he can't pass the eye test. We know Dave. But no, maybe there's another reason that Dave is getting better than you faster. And for me, what happens in my gym still, of course, to this day, is that certain people see jiu-jitsu in a similar way or learn jiu-jitsu from a similar perspective that I share all the time, okay? And those people will get better faster. The people that learn better through finding something really important in their game and then just drilling it to death, they don't learn as well the way that I learn, which is like, yeah, I don't drill stuff near as much as I get some resistance or real resistance for my reps. That's the drilling that I like to do, right? And then I still, of course, have some students that feel like they're getting best at jiu-jitsu or getting better at jiu-jitsu faster when they are trying to find out the smallest detail that will help them win a position, okay? And so all that being said, that's all just a really long intro, even though I said I'm never doing an intro again on this podcast. I guess I just did a 8-minute one. That's just a really long intro into the idea that we're going to look at today. And it is the idea that, yes, everybody learns jiu-jitsu differently. But to me, there are 3 perspectives that we can define really easily. And you will find that you fall into 1 or 2 of these perspectives. A lot of times, just 1 of these perspectives. If you've done jiu-jitsu for more than 6 months, you will probably know, like, I do seem to get better at if we do it this way, right? If we learn jiu-jitsu this way. And so this idea, if you guys, I guess I'll throw the commercial in right after the super long fake intro, was if you guys want more on this idea, this is all in an ebook, and there's way, way, way more detail to it. And the ebook is called The 3 Lenses. And it is just me. A couple of years ago, I tried to define the way that I thought that I believe people learn jiu-jitsu. And I think it's really, really helpful. It is super, super, super detailed, way more detailed than anything else that I ever do. And so it's a longer read than you would expect a free ebook, but I'm telling you, it is deep. The people that have downloaded it and read it, so many of them have given me such cool reviews and responses of it. But I know I'm an audio video podcast guy. Nobody wants to read what I have to write. So we're making it an episode. So if you guys don't want to dig in deep, don't read the book. But we're just going to focus on making this really simple to understand and for you to define how you learn jiu-jitsu. And so how I kind of look at this is the 3 lenses are the scientific lens. Okay, so these are the scientific lens is analytical. People that like to analyze the situation that happened, and generally people that need a lot of small details. They need to know exactly where the hand placement should be. And that's almost like them having those details is what lets them know, like, I got better at jiu-jitsu today. I found a new detail to apply to my jiu-jitsu. And I think that there are a lot of people that learn jiu-jitsu this way, and it is called the scientific lens. So, of course, the people that learn jiu-jitsu this way are freaking nerds, but don't let me define you. But then the next two lenses, the next one is the artistic lens. And these are people who learn jiu-jitsu best through feel, okay? And if you want to feel jiu-jitsu, one of the best ways to feel jiu-jitsu is to live roll. And these are the type of people that usually you will see them kind of like inventing jiu-jitsu moves or doing things just a little bit differently with their own spin. And these are the hippies of the jiu-jitsu world, right? We know who we're talking about. This is the 10th planet, guys. They all learn in that artistic lens, wink, wink, if you know what I'm saying. But no, this is just that group of people that learn jiu-jitsu through feel. And then after that, and this is like, I actually did understand the scientific lens and that lens of learning through feel. The artistic lens, I had been so closely, in my training, I had been so closely like, around both that I kind of understood how to learn in those perspectives. But what was really interesting was the most popular lens and the most common lens, and this is the lens that is forced upon most people, is what I would call the athletic lens, which is doing kind of reps of something, and that's how you learn. And a lot of times, people that learn in the athletic lens are visual learners, and the reason that doing those reps is so helpful for them is because they're able to kind of see certain situations because they've been in them so many times, and then like that visual allows them to react to the situation. When I know he grabs my right collar, I grab his armpit and then I do my knee cut, right? We all have these positions that are like that. That is, to me, the athletic lens of learning jiu-jitsu. And you do not have to be an athlete to learn jiu-jitsu in the athletic lens. You don't have to be a nerd to learn it in the scientific lens, and you don't have to be a pothead to learn it in the artistic lens. To me, these are just natural ways that people learn. For me, I have always been an artistic learner, even not in jiu-jitsu. I've always learned better by doing rather than you telling me how to do it. And that's so weird because so much of the way that I teach now is like me telling people what to do, but that's why I teach in big ideas, because then it's less time of me telling you what to do, right? It's more time of you doing it. Here's the problem. Not everybody learns that way. And so I'll teach a seminar where like a ton of people absolutely love it, but the people that don't learn that way, that learn better with small details that I don't provide, they're like, man, I didn't learn anything. Like he just taught a million moves. He didn't teach me anything new though. He didn't teach me any new detail, right? And that is, again, there's nothing wrong with that. And again, there's nothing I can really do about it either. Sometimes people just learn that way. And I would say that most of the time you naturally learn that way. I think that you can get better in a lens that, you could get better through just live rolling, even if you are a scientific learner of jiu-jitsu. But I think you're going to struggle a lot. And I know that there are people that resonates with that are listening. There are some people who are like, no, I only get good through live rolling. This dude doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, that means you're not a scientific learner. That means you're probably an artistic learner, right? But then there are the guys that need to get the reps through drilling and need to just see the position a million times, and sometimes even positional sparring. But they need to see the position a million times. And those are the athletes. And so hopefully this is, I know it's, again, a really, really simple description of something that is a book, right? And so now we're just going to kind of dig into what each lens might look like, and some of the problems and kind of the good things, the ways to solve the problems that might occur if you learn in this way. Okay, so we're going to start with athletes. If you learn best through drilling, or you're somebody that finds like, yeah, I just in this again. If you're brand new to jiu-jitsu, you are probably going to need to take something that you know how to do, something that you had to learn, whether it be your job, whether it be something you did in school, but just, I don't know, the last thing that you learned that wasn't jiu-jitsu, and say, okay, well, this is how I learned it. Or the things that you learn, how you learn them best, right? Are you a person who follows the directions on when you're building something and really reads every single thing? Well, most likely you're going to be scientific, or you're going to be athletic learner. You're not an artistic learner. Those are the guys that don't read the directions, right? They just do it by feel. And so, as an athletic learner in jiu-jitsu, I think that the best example of this is, I think, everybody's first jiu-jitsu coach. And I just joke when I say that, but if you look on YouTube, when it comes to like jiu-jitsu for beginners, one of the most popular people is, and has been for a very long time, has been Chewy. And so many people go into learning from Chewy. Why is that? To me, it's because Chewy's lens that he shares for jiu-jitsu learning is the athletic lens perfected. Meaning, for people that learn in this way, it is the way to learn, okay? It is through really important things, really simple things that you can just go and implement and work on tonight. But then the call to action is always to get reps of it, right? To just get your reps of it. But then there are also some really popular videos from him early on that he does kind of like repetitive drills, and not just do the rep of this move, like do the rep of these moves in sequence, or do the rep of this move, and he has different reactions, right? And to me, again, that is, if you have learned from him, you're like, yeah, his way of sharing jiu-jitsu is best for me, then that is probably because you learn as a jiu-jitsu athlete, or you learn in that athletic lens, right? You learn through repetition, and you learn through simple details. So if that clicks to you, here is what you need to avoid, okay? And this is really important. You have to figure out a way to avoid repetitively drilling stuff that's stupid. And that is such a easier said than done thing. There's so much information out there, and so many different moves thrown at you. And so if you learn one move at a time, how do you decide what move to do, and how many reps of that move do you get? Well, here, first thing is, this is why I love repetitive drilling, what we just talked about. Maybe where I do a sweep and I land and mount, and then you escape, and then you do a sweep and land and mount, and then I escape, and that's our repetitive drill. And maybe we're hitting the same sweep over and over, but it almost allows us to feel our way through multiple jiu-jitsu positions. To me, again, if you're a visual learner, you're seeing and feeling multiple jiu-jitsu positions. So this is going to be really helpful for you. But this will also keep you, like, even if the sweep that you're drilling is stupid, at least you guys are getting some position from mount and getting some escape from mount. And so this will kind of make it a little more foolproof. But besides that, I really think using the method of where am I at most is the simplest way to decide what you should be working. If you are going to drill something repetitively, if you're like, those ecological approach guys are so mean to me, I like to repetitively drill moves, then repetitively drill moves. That's probably because you learn jiu-jitsu in that method. And so if you learn jiu-jitsu in that method, get your reps. but just make sure you're getting reps of things that are good. And I would say kind of the scariest thing, the biggest pitfall of the athletic lens, and this is why, again, this is just how jiu-jitsu is taught nowadays. Here's 3 moves, drill them a little bit, and then we'll roll live. Jiu-jitsu is taught in the athletic lens almost everywhere, okay? And that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying anything bad about how jiu-jitsu is taught. But since jiu-jitsu is taught that way, one of the best buzzwords or buzz phrases that I have on the podcast that always resonates with people is this thing my dad and I used to define. We called it the victim of 1,000 moves. And it's like, right, learning jiu-jitsu is always good, right? Give me a new move, give me a new move, give me a new move. But then all of a sudden, there is this day of diminishing return where you have 73 things that you do from top side control. And if you can't open the guy's elbows up, none of them work. And so you may have wasted your time drilling those 73 things, right? And it's just like, can you really be good at 73 different things? Probably not. If you ask a room of black belts, hey, how many of you are, we would define it as great. How many of you are great at more than 5 different moves in jiu-jitsu, like definable moves? Most black belts wouldn't raise their hand. They'd be like, I'm really good at 2 things. I know for sure I'm great at 2 things. But yeah, most black belts wouldn't raise their hand in that. And so the truth is, for an athletic learner, for somebody who needs repetition of drilling, you cannot just watch a million instructionals and expect to just absorb it all naturally, and then drill and then write out on your book that, okay, I'm going to drill all these things this day, all these things this day. A lot of times the drilling just becomes a job. It just becomes a routine. And for an athlete, a routine is a great thing. But you don't want to just become so routine and mindless that white belt you was defining all these drills that you were going to be doing over the next 4 years, and then you stick to it. White belt you is an idiot, right? And so if you drill something enough, it should hopefully change your perspective enough that you should know what to drill next. And so you want to learn to kind of do that by feel. And that's not something that comes natural to people that learn in this lens. And so I would say those are kind of our main thoughts. Let me just make sure on my notes I didn't lie to you guys, because every once in a while I'll be like, oh yeah, that's everything. And then I am... oh yeah, see what I'm saying? So the 2 things that you need if you are an athletic learner, and these are really important, is a coach that you see, or that helps you learn jiu-jitsu. And that doesn't mean, or instructor that helps you learn jiu-jitsu. And that doesn't mean that if your instructor, if you just notice like, man, the stuff that my instructor shows just doesn't resonate with me. The way that he teaches jiu-jitsu just doesn't resonate with me. I learn better from this guy online. That doesn't mean your instructor's an idiot. Again, he just probably sees jiu-jitsu from a different perspective. And the people that in the gym that see it from his perspective probably all get good and probably all love the way that he teaches. And so it's you, it's not them. And so what I would say is a big thing that you look for is the right coach, or the right coach that puts out the right instructionals. People that you learn from that just connect with you. All you need is a good idea to drill for a period of time, and you're going to get good at jiu-jitsu, or to rep for a period of time. That's how you get good. It's simple. Let it be simple. Don't overcomplicate it by trying to make yourself great at a million different things at one time. Get your reps in, but try to make sure you're focused. And then also, since being able to feel is hard, like to feel your way through things is hard, really use visual cues. Do things like, man, when somebody grabs my collar, I respond this way. When somebody moves over here, I respond this way. And when it will help you so much because you'll see, whatever. It's hard because we all have our own visual cues, but like when you see the crooks of the knees, you try to control them, right? And so again, that's a visual cue that I use a lot in jiu-jitsu. It's like, oh, I see his knees. I see behind his knees. I'm going to jam that up so I can be annoying, right? And so like visual cues just help so much when it comes to people that learn through reps. Now let's look at the other two lenses and how they learn. So again, like I said, I learn as an artist. I'm going to do that one last. We're going to kind of look at the scientific lens of jiu-jitsu. And again, these are the people that like having the better knowledge, okay? The better understanding. And it is not uncommon. And again, this is just all my perspective stuff. I'm an artistic lens person, right? I do things by feel. This is how I feel jiu-jitsu is. But the people that tend to learn this way with detail, and it's like they need concrete detail. They need something surefire. Show me the grip fight that is always the response to this grip fight, and then the grip fight that is always the response to this grip fight. Give me more detail on that. Should my hand be here? Should it be here? Right? Again, it's a very analytical person, and these type of people generally hate learning from me. And so I'm sorry. My bad. You're probably not even listening to this podcast. But if you learn that way, if you learn through kind of analyzing and thinking through things, or that's how you learn best, a lot of times that time is not defined in jiu-jitsu training schedule. Thinking about jiu-jitsu, thinking your way through jiu-jitsu, researching your way through jiu-jitsu. I have been struggling with butterfly guard. I am going to research all these YouTube channels and then find every detail about butterfly guard that's important. I'm going to write them all out. And then once I know all those, I'm going to experiment with all those. And then we'll have the perfect answer. And every time I'm in butterfly, I am going to do jiu-jitsu this way. And so I think that this is, I think that kind of like the pitfall, the fear of learning jiu-jitsu this way. If this resonates with you, and again, this part is what's going to resonate with the people that learn from the scientific lens. If you suffer from analysis paralysis in jiu-jitsu, you learn from the scientific lens, okay? If you not only overthink, but you overthink to death, almost overthink to, again, diminishing returns. And especially in jiu-jitsu or just in anything, most likely you are a scientific lens learner, and you learn through detail, and you learn through like kind of deep understanding of things. And I think, again, this is something I got to be around John Thomas a lot early on, and him learning this way and teaching me to learn this way through analysis. If I didn't know how to do that, I wouldn't have been able to compete at the level of jiu-jitsu that I've been able to compete at, because I was able to, as a person who learns by feel, I would need to compete every weekend to learn by feel against the competitors that I was going against, because it just was hard for me to get reps against that level of guy unless it was a competition. And so there was a huge hole in my training method, and I was able to fill it by saying, and again, this is actually, I'm sure I could find it somewhere. This is actually a Facebook message that John Thomas sent me. And it was like, I'm struggling with these guys in my division. What am I going to do? He's like, well, how often do you watch your division? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, watch your specific division I think I was a purple belt at the time. He's like, in your division, you should probably watch it at brown and black belt too, just to see what the future is going to be. He goes, but definitely your division. You should know the top 16 guys everything that they play. And he's like, then you find like, oh, they all play De La Hiva. I need to figure out every answer to De La Hiva. And it was like, oh my gosh, that is such a simple way as a competitor to start to analyze. And I literally have notes, and this is just not something I do anymore, but this is just, again, at that time when my understanding wasn't deep enough and I needed to get there. We had to use the scientific lens to get there. And how it looked was, I looked at all the guys in my division. I looked at the positions they played, and I said, do I have real answers for these? And so we would just positional spar them. And if I had a really good answer, most of the time we would write that down. And then if I didn't, we would problem solve. We would get reps doing it. A lot of times I would write down a bunch of different ideas and then go try them the next day, see what worked. And then like the idea would get better and better. And, it was, again, this lens of jiu-jitsu can be so valuable for getting good. And especially if you have like good problems that you're running into. You have good training partners that beat up on you and make you mad enough. This is going to be you, right? And again, having a good coach, having an instructor that gives you the details that you need is going to be so important. This is why like people a lot of times that learn in the scientific lens really love how John Danaher teaches, right? The dude teaches like he's a scientist. He gives you details that are so important. And they are a lot of times game-changing details that you can almost implement that night. And if you are a scientific learner guy, you are going to love getting those details that you can then throw in your repertoire, get your reps, beat people down with. And so I would say that the tough thing is with learning from this lens, okay, is I see people try to write their final dissertation on something all the time that learn through this lens. And you'll see a purple belt and they'll be like, I finally have the best way to hold side control. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't have the best way to hold side control. You may have a good way to hold side control, but there is a counter to it that a high-level guy would feel his way through in a couple seconds, and then you would no longer have the best counter to it, right? And so that's just, I don't know. I think that's kind of when we're looking at the scientific lens, I would say that's kind of the main problem is that analysis paralysis. And then the main solution, the things that seem to really work well for people that learn in the scientific lens is a system style of learning. Okay. Meaning like how John Danaher teaches you a system of playing a very specific position. Maybe I don't know what they call like headquarters from guard passing. I don't even call it headquarters. It's just a thing people define all the time. But guard passing headquarters, and then he gives you a situation that you can put somebody in where they have 3 responses, and then he gives you a simple answer to all 3 responses. And in the scientific lens, that is the ideal situation, the ideal thing. It becomes a problem when you assume you're going to create a situation that is unbeatable, okay? And again, you overanalyze. Sometimes it's best to just move on. If you are struggling with this, if you are struggling with a position that you've been obsessing over too long, so often the answer for most people that are struggling in jiu-jitsu is focus. But sometimes when I'm dealing with somebody that learns scientifically, I'm like, bro, you're focusing too much. All right. We need to take a step back. We need a little more perspective. You are thinking of this very, very, very specific situation as it's very important for all of jiu-jitsu. And like you could easily turn your game into just never being in this situation ever, right? You could just create a way to never be here. And so therefore this situation isn't even that important for jiu-jitsu in general. And so trying to not overanalyze, trying to not have analysis paralysis is the answer for the scientific lens. And now we'll move on to me favorite, because of course it's me, the artistic lens. These again are the people that learn best through live rolling and are just, listen guys, we're looked down upon. People treat us like the scum of the earth because a lot of times learning best through live rolling is looked at as laziness. It's like looked at as, well, you guys aren't wanting to do your reps. You don't want to do your reps of things. The truth is, some people do not learn very well through doing reps of things. Some people learn way better trying to do the reps and find their way into the rep in a live round. What I mean by that is maybe I am drilling Americanas, and as a really good artistic learner, I hit 3 Americanas in the round, and I'm like, man, I felt great on that. And I could have drilled the Americana 50 times in that, in that 5-minute round. And you would argue, well, Josh, you would have gotten 50 reps of the Americana. One, I would say a real rep is more valuable. And 2, I would say, yeah, I did. But when we're doing the finish of the Americana, I mean, I'm drilling the hand position, but I'm not dealing with somebody who is trying to stop me. In this situation, I passed the person's guard 3 different times. I found 3 different ways to open their elbows to hit the Americana. So in my opinion, I got better at the Americana than the guy who did 50 reps. But again, if the guy who did 50 reps learns better that way and doesn't learn very well in the do it by feel your way through, just go find a way into side control, just go find a way, or if you're stuck in a different place, we'll try to feel our way out of that place, and just doing jiu-jitsu by feel. That is, again, how some people learn jiu-jitsu. And so for us as coaches and for us as just individuals, our job is like, well, which one of these things do I get better in? Which way do I get better at jiu-jitsu? To be honest, you can kind of look at Thai training method to any of these ways. Okay. Any of these lenses. So let's start with, let's say we're in the artistic lens still. Where do you think designated winner came from, right? Hey, we are going to do a positional spar where you only give me 20%, right? Why would I want that? Well, because now I can feel some resistance and I can feel through the responses that I would like to give, right? And, if you really look at what designated winner is, it is just an artistic training method. We are going to have less definition on our training. Your job is to get past the guard, right? And you're going to start from open guard. He's going to give you 20% resistance, which is just him framing on you. And you are going to pass the guard. That is the ultimate, to me, artistic training method. And then you do that with enough positions and you will get good. The problem with artistic training is they're always the YouTube move guy because they're artists. They're people that understand jiu-jitsu as the martial art and a lot of times less as the sport. Generally, they're like, man, I care more about hitting something cool than I care about actually winning this round, because each round is its own painting, right? It's a piece of art. And so with this lens, though, it's just so easy to learn a bunch of dumb stuff because it looks cool, right? And it's so easy to try to replace effectiveness with like flashiness. And that can be a huge problem in your jiu-jitsu because sometimes it's just important to be effective, right? And being able to, I think the best flash comes through being able to do really, really amazing things simply, And so, it's easy as an athlete though to be like, or an artist to be like, man, this cartwheel pass is so cool. If I just only focused on this for the next 7 years, I would probably be pretty good at it. And that is true. You would probably be pretty good at it. But here's the problem. The cartwheel pass is stupid. And so if you get good at that and like somebody puts a De La Riva hook in, you can't cartwheel pass, right? They get your sleeves. A cartwheel pass is going to be much harder. You might be doing the face plant pass. And yeah, you just, there are, again, always these negatives to each way of learning, and then ways to define it. And like, if you are an artistic learning person, it's really important to learn big ideas. It's why I teach so much in concept is I can look at all the moves, all of the 73 side control moves that we were talking about earlier, where you're doing all these attacks from side control. And like, it doesn't really matter to know all those moves. But what if there was one upper body position that all those moves had that was totally in common? Wouldn't that be really important? And that's how I have learned jiu-jitsu best, is through big ideas like that, saying, hey, this happens a bunch of times. We see it happen over and over. And so this is just, again, a shortened, condensed version of the 3 lenses. And I think that now would be a good time to move on from that idea and then go into the last part of this idea. And that is, well, Josh, how do I get way better at jiu-jitsu like you promised? All you did was tell me how I learned jiu-jitsu. This doesn't tell me anything. So we're going to look at it like this. All 3 of these methods learn jiu-jitsu loosely in this same way. And that is this idea. I named it, and this is stupid, I named it the DRE loop. And the idea is, it's an acronym for definition, repetition, and exploration. The reason I named it the DRE loop, one, is because it's a loop, and it ideally will just continue, you will continue to go around it. It is, that's how circles work, right? But then it's called the DRE loop because it's very important that you don't forget about DRE. Right? No? Okay, I'm sorry. Again, this is just like kind of the loose definition of jiu-jitsu learning. I always tell you guys, all you need is understanding and repetition to get good at jiu-jitsu. And that is not entirely true. You actually need something else. And so that is what we're going to kind of look at. And so to get good at jiu-jitsu, the DRE loop is definition, repetition, and exploration. Your definition, okay, this is going to be kind of where your learning starts. For an athlete, you get a simple idea. You get a simple move. A lot of times, if you are an artist, you get inspired. You see something really cool, and you're like, I'm going to try doing cartwheels in my jiu-jitsu too. And then a lot of times for the scientific learner, they start with a problem or a hypothesis, right? You're a scientist, so hypothesis is probably a word that we should use. And so either way, we're all starting with some type of definition. The athlete has a move. The artist has something cool that they're thinking about. They're wanting to, that they are inspired by, or even a grip that they're inspired by, and it's not an actual move. And they're just like, I'm going to try to use that cross collar grip that guy was using more and just apply it to my jiu-jitsu. Or, of course, the scientist has a problem. And so then we go into our kind of like the next part of our loop. And that is where we actually get good at jiu-jitsu, where we take this new move that we've learned and we drill it, right? If we're an athlete, we have a new move, we drill it, we do it a bunch. Or we can positional spar it, right? Positional sparring is a really, really good alternative for just drilling a move over and over, because then you can drill the position over and over, get realistic responses, and then get a lot of reps of that way. Or as an athlete, you could also, and again, I'm throwing a lot at you guys, so you could listen to this last part a bunch of times if you need to. You could also do what we call percentage drilling. It's kind of like designated winner, except there is more definition. I am drilling my knee cut. I want you to kind of build frames on me, and I'm going to try to dig deeper. And I'm still going for my knee cut. And you're just going to give me a little bit. You're going to give me a percentage of energy. And so that is what that repetition might look like if you are an athlete. If you're an artist, I told you guys already, you could be playing designated winner. I'm going to start on top. And yeah, I may do some knee cuts, but I may do some Toriandos or some double unders. I'm going to try to feel my way through your guard every time, right? And that's my repetition. Or another way that you may learn as an artist, or the artistic lens learns, is you could do what we would call live drilling. Live drilling is, I want to get good at knee cuts, and I'm a purple belt, and I'm going with this white belt who loves to roll with me, who really sucks, and I usually get nothing out of the round. Well, I can just kind of like set up my knee cut, hit my knee cut, let him fight his way out of side control so he doesn't even know that this is happening, and then hit another rep of knee cut, right? And so I'm drilling during a live round, right? It sounds like you're being a jerk. I promise if you disguise it well, you're actually being a really good training partner. You're giving him a lot of reps against defending that. Yeah, I think that super, super important. But then we will go into the last form of getting repetitions. And this is for a scientist. I would say that like most scientists struggle with getting reps of things. They love to have the answer, but then when it comes to like applying that answer to their jiu-jitsu, it's not there. And so if you learn through analysis and you learn through a ton of just a ton of detail, then it's so important that you're finding a way to get reps of this detail. Most of the time, those reps are just going to be positional sparring, right? If you're working on a super secret collar grip from knee cutting, I know I'm just throwing knee cuts because everything's about knee cuts. If you're doing that, then make sure that you are positional sparring a position that's allowing you to get knee cut, or you're doing your live rounds and it's allowing you to get knee cut. Jiu-jitsu is very mental, but it is not only mental, it is also physical, and you have to go get your reps in, okay? And so those are kind of the repetition ways that you will see in the Dre loop. And then the last part of the loop, and this is what is so important. So if you understand jiu-jitsu more and you get more reps of things, you will get good. Here's the problem. What should you focus on understanding, and what should you focus on getting reps of? And that is why we have this part of exploration. You need periods of time where you try to decide what you should be working next, okay? Because if you want to get good, it doesn't matter how you learn jiu-jitsu. Take a move, get a bunch of reps of it. You will get good at that move. I promise you. Focus on it for 6 weeks. Try to implement it every time you do a live round. You will get good. If you're not getting good in 6 weeks, then you probably picked too hard of a move. Give it 6 months. You will get good. That is the end to getting good. Oh, wait, it's not. Because getting good at one move is only one move. What am I going to do for the next 6 weeks? Well, you could just throw darts at the wall and just try to get good at all the random moves. Or you can find something that allows you, each time you finish a cycle of learning, allows you to kind of find something new to learn. And that is kind of this exploration idea in the Dre loop that that we'll kind of finish on a little bit. And so like the athletic training method, this is the way we train jiu-jitsu everywhere. How do you find your new move? You walk up to your coach and you go, Coach, I'm really struggling with guard passing. What should I do? Right? And it's like, yes, you can do that at first, but when that is your default, I do not care how good your coach is, your jiu-jitsu will progression is going to stop. Unless your coach is only dedicated to analyzing you, unless your coach is your dad and he watches every rep you do, he might have a good answer, right? But it is more on you to be engaged enough when you are doing jiu-jitsu to figure out what you need to work, right? And so how you do that, instead of just going like, hey, you should be focused, you should know. When you finish a loop of something, a period of time, it doesn't really matter how you learn. When you finish this, understanding the simple idea and you get some reps of it and you notice yourself getting better, and it's getting to a point where you just notice like either you're getting bored with it or you're just not really getting much better at it. You're not having any new ideas. It is what it is at this point, okay? When you get there, going into this next phase of exploration of I'm going to just train. I'm just going to try to win. I can get a lot better at jiu-jitsu that way. And so often, I think that this is a really easy way to help people get good, is like focus on something for a period, do it a bunch, but then after, go back to just trying to win. And then you analyze. You say, what am I struggling with? Or where am I at a lot? Am I in bottom side control constantly? Well, I better not work rear naked choke finishes because I will never get there. I'm always in bottom side control. Why don't we work where I'm at 80% of the time? Okay. And then after that, though, I've created this new situation where I no longer am getting held down in bottom side control. And so I need a new focus. Well, if I analyzed again, I would say, after I'm escaping side control, I'm always ending up in butterfly guard. Maybe I should be able to sweep people from butterfly guard, right? Or maybe I should tie this into a guard that I already know and focus on that for a period of time. But again, it's like, you can't plan this out. I cannot say 6 weeks from now I need to be doing this, and 6 weeks from now I need to be doing this. Again, because the big important thing here is ideally you get better every time and you have this brand new perspective that's maybe a little wider that you can then apply to what should I get better at now. And so I know it's like, but Josh, I have a coach. He should be doing that. It's like your coach cannot focus on you to a to a T. He has so many other students. And so if you really want to have new focuses all the time that are really important to your actual jiu-jitsu progression, it is you knowing yourself. There's this Socrates quote. It's like, a man who isn't first his own doctor, isn't his own doctor first, is a fool. And it is something as like along the lines of, if a doctor told you something if a doctor told me my arm was broken and I was like, but my arm isn't broken. I'm sure of it. I can touch it. I can move it. I can feel it. Would I go, you know what? He went to medical school. I know he didn't x-ray me, but he said it was broken. He told me it was, and I know I don't feel it and I don't see it, but he knows better than me. Or would I trust myself at least a little bit in that situation? Most likely I would trust myself in that situation. And of course, you could probably go way too far the other way on this and just be like, nah, dude, I do not have cancer. You're lying. And that's probably not good. I would listen on that one, but just really knowing it really is just more of a quote about knowing and taking care of yourself and just that first personal responsibility. So many people view doctors nowadays as, your job is to keep me healthy. What are you talking about? It's like, no. Your job is to keep you healthy. My job is when you're not healthy. Okay. And so if you don't do your job, you will be not healthy coming to me, and there's just nothing I can do to fix this, right? You're just not healthy. And jiu-jitsu coaching is very similar. You have to put in so much effort into yourself as a jiu-jitsu athlete for your coach to be able to help you well, and for what your coach to be able to tell you to actually matter, right? And so when you're looking at what should I be getting better at, you really need to figure out how to answer that question on your own. And when you do that, this is when I tell you guys all the time now that I have not plateaued in my jiu-jitsu in, I couldn't even tell you how long. I don't think since I've been a black belt that I've plateaued. And even before that, it had been a while, but I do not think that I have hit a point where I've gone, I am not getting better noticeably for a period of time. And it is because I will focus on things for however long I need to until I'm bored with them. But then as soon as it ends, I make sure that my training is built around finding something new to be working. And sometimes it takes weeks and weeks and weeks, but that's also fun too. I'm just rolling to have fun and win. And then on top of that, applied to the competitor idea of this, because we really have only talked about this for probably more for hobbyists getting good at jiu-jitsu. As a competitor for me, when I do this now, a lot of times in competition season, I am using my exploration day, quote unquote, is my day where I go in just to win. We call it my performance day when it comes to competition. And so I'm going in for a performance day. My only job is to win. If I find something in my jiu-jitsu game that isn't working, well, now I have 6 days to focus and get better at it. And then I go in again and explore, try to win. And then a lot of times that still hasn't been fixed. And so I have 6 more days to work on it. And so again, this is this same definition, repetition, and exploration loop applied to any way you can learn jiu-jitsu. And again, this is like, there's this concept called the flywheel in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And the flywheel is this thing that great businesses had. And basically it is this cycle that runs for the great businesses. Like for Walmart, it's like we provide the absolute lowest prices. And so it gives us more customers that want to buy our stuff. And then we we don't own any factories, so we make people compete for our business because our business now has a bunch of customers in it. So people will now give us lower prices, and now we, again, sell prices at a lower cost, right? That would be a flywheel. And so every time that they add more customers, it gives them the ability to create more competition for all these businesses to then, hopefully for them in their flywheel, give you whatever it is at a lower cost. And then they'll get more customers, right? And ideally for you with any flywheel, it speeds up every time you go around it, right? And so I won't dig any more into that concept. We'll just kind of apply it. So with this idea of the Dre loop, of you defining what you're going to get good at, getting repetitions of it, and then exploring something new to get good at. Every time you go through that cycle successfully, not only do you get better at jiu-jitsu and it changes your perspective, but you get better at learning jiu-jitsu. And then you do it more and you do it more and you do it more. And it gets to this point where learning jiu-jitsu becomes incredibly easy. And so that is kind of the hack part of this episode, is that learning jiu-jitsu is a skill. And this, again, 3 Lenses ebook, I wouldn't even put a commercial in this episode. 3 Lenses ebook, totally free, simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. I'll put the link in the description. It'll put you on my email list, the Geek Gazette. You want to do it, I promise. Totally worth it. If you listened this far into this episode, the content in this, I promise you, will blow your mind because there's way more to this. But you do that loop. Every time you go to explore, you're a new jiu-jitsu athlete and you're a little bit better. And then as you keep it going, your speed of progression, it snowballs. You just continue to learn faster and learn faster. And to me, what's really cool is I feel like at this point, this loop has become natural to the way that I look at jiu-jitsu. I am shocked. I'm shook if I don't have something I'm working on. And if I don't have something I'm working on, I'm literally working on finding something to work on. And so I always have something I'm working on. I'm always have something that I'm doing and focused on in jiu-jitsu. Even when there isn't focus, it's finding a new focus, right? Getting enough reps in of trying to win where I'm going, okay, I'm finding myself here. This is what it's time to work. And yeah, that's the secret. I don't think I know anything else about getting better at jiu-jitsu. And that is where I will leave you guys. If you guys liked this episode, be sure to check out the Three Lenses ebook. I'm telling you, you will love it, and it will put you on the Gi Gazette. Also, if you guys haven't, I believe there are still a few bags left of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show Revive collaboration, the coffee that I had told you guys. I shared a video a couple weeks in a row with you guys, and I'll actually be sharing a vlog with you guys really soon. It's still not finished out of the editing process, but that'll be ready soon. And besides that, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope that you check out the Three Lenses. I hope the idea is exciting to you and as exciting to you as it was for me. And I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.